Hi, everybody. Hi. Hello. All right. It seems like we're live. My name is Artem, and welcome to my regular broadcasts on the topic of spiritual enlightenment and spirituality and all the things related. Again, my name is Artem, and I'm a spiritual teacher. I have a website which is called www.truefreedom.net. Please feel free to check it out if you're interested. I host this weekly broadcasts for my students and everybody else, where we speak about spiritual topics. And today, the topic of our meeting is material wealth and happiness. So, material wealth and spiritual growth. So, everything related to material wealth. So, I have a couple of people here that joined the broadcast. Ben is in the guest room. Please, if you want to join the broadcast live, please just use this link. It's in the comment on both YouTube and Facebook, and you'll just need a browser with a webcam, and you'll be able to be a guest on the broadcast, and we will speak to you. I will speak to you. Will be my pleasure over video or voice, any way you like. And you can also post comments to both Facebook and YouTube, and I will be able to immediately see them, and I'll be able to bring it up just like that. Hello, David. Hello. So we have a couple of people now, and without any, I wasn't planning to speak myself on this topic, and so without any further ado, I will bring up guests. David, I can see that you joined. I see you in comments, but you're not in the guest room. So if you have any questions, so you'd like me to touch upon a specific topic, please either join or just use the comments so that I will see. And now we have Ben. Who has joined the broadcast, and I haven't spoken to him for a while. Hi, Ben.
Hi.
How's
Hey.
it going? Oh, sorry. I think maybe I'm on mute. Yes, I actually was on mute, believe it or not. Not on mute, but my speakers were off. Okay. Hi, Ben.
Hi. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
can.
Um, yeah. So my original question was basically, um, so like with money and happiness,
Mhm.
like I personally don't think there is a relationship, um, but people tend to say that they're happier if they have more money, and so I
Mhm.
was just wondering what causes that.
Yeah. That's actually a very good question, and one that I struggled with for a long time in my life. I mean, looking back at my life, I could also say that my whole life has been a search for happiness, and I've had lots of depressions, and I read a bunch of books. I had a scientific approach. I had a pretty scientific mind, so I read a lot of books about a lot of scientific books and happiness. I pretty much devoured every research on happiness I could find. So I tend to remember some of the statistics that has some explanatory power around this phenomena. But generally speaking, and let me make it like this. Yes. So, could you please put yourself on mute, because there's some noise from time to time. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yes. So generally speaking, uh, uh, if we define happiness as how as people define it, right? So if we study happiness um, by asking people questions, and that's actually pretty much the only way to study happiness, because happiness is very subjective, and when people start studying happiness, they they get all sorts of very, very strange things. So it is very hard to see what makes people happy, and of course, which makes sense, right? Because we are all I mean, nothing makes us happy, really. I mean, there's no such thing that makes us happy. We're all just unhappy in different ways. So happiness is a relational state, but we are all unhappy in different ways. So when we study what makes people happy, then we usually get some complicated results, and they're hard to interpret. But nevertheless, we do get results, and there is a correlation between material wealth and happiness, and a part of this correlation is completely illusory, even on the level of subjective evaluation, right? So the whole of this correlation is completely illusory in truth, right? So in truth, your happiness does not depend on material wealth at all. But even as a subjective experience, a part of this correlation is illusory, and a part of it is not. And actually, the research points to that. It is very interesting to see which part is illusory and which part is not. So when people study happiness as a function of wealth, then so Asen says that happiness is non-separation. Yes. So from the I just wanted to put this from the perspective of the realized state. Yes, of course. Yes, happiness is non-separation. But even when we speak about happiness in samsara, even if we speak about happiness in the dream state, we can still make some observations, and they are interesting. So, for example. When scientists study self-reported subjective happiness as a function of wealth, then there's an interesting correlation. Poor people, the people that live in poverty, are usually much, like on average, are less happy than people who do not live in poverty. Then, as the living standards increase, the level of happiness increase until there's a point at which the level of happiness does not increase any further. And we're speaking about aggregates, right? We're speaking about averages, we're speaking about correlations, we're speaking about large numbers. So the graph goes like it's higher, and then there's a point, and this is a ceiling, and it just goes like this. And after the ceiling, it doesn't matter how much money you earn. It doesn't matter. You're not going to be more happy. So that's the illusory part, that is the illusion, even even in the dream state, basically. So basically, if you have, and the interesting thing is that that this correlation, this kind of dependency, it only exists within one society. So within the context of a specific society, right? So, for example, in the United States, I think I remember last time I read research on happiness, which was years ago, but this point, the ceiling point, I think it was about $70,000 or $80,000 a year. So if you live in the United States, on average, right? So we're all individuals, but on average, people who live in the United States, every like $10,000 in yearly income increases their average level of happiness. But after $7,000, that is no longer the case. So even in the dream state, basically, there's the if you are earning like $100,000 and you think that if you're going to earn more, if you're going to earn like $200,000, then you're going to be more happy. This is actually an illusion, and I can confirm it with my experience. But nevertheless, the correlation within the society exists, and that is very interesting to see why. And if we look at why, then, and by the way, even the scientists understand that. If we look at why, then we will see that basically the level of subjective happiness corresponds to the level of your own self-evaluation compared to other people, right? So for as long as there is so ego exists in comparisons, right? We constantly compare each other. That's basically, the process of enlightenment is basically the process when you stop doing that. That's kind of all it is. You can even put it this way. But we constantly compare each other. And one of the biggest thing that we compare each other by is status. Well, I mean, in fact, all of our comparisons are kind of status. But when I say status in this specific instance, I mean status as it relates to material wealth. So richer is better, worse poor is worse, right? So and when you live in society, then people who tend to affect your level of happiness are people who you see. So it doesn't kind of really matter if there are some other people somewhere there, very kind of abstract people that are rich, for as long as you don't see them. But if you live in a society where everybody is much better off than you, and you are kind of on the very bottom, right, then it is very difficult psychologically for kind of an averagely conditioned mind not to be hard on yourself. That is also why poverty is so ugly, and that is also why people in poverty need help. They don't need moralizing. They already hard on themselves most of the time. Most of the time, people that are poor are already hard on themselves. So when we kind of start moralizing and saying like you're poor because you're lazy, you don't work, we are usually, not always, but we're usually compounding to the problem. You see, and so the way that you perceive happiness and in samsara, in the dream state, is very much related to how you perceive yourself compared to other people. And so that's why I also say that happiness in samsara is an authentic happiness. I mean, you can be very happy because you are kind of you are content with your relative position in society. Let's like I don't know, you don't need to go to the very top, let's say, but you are in the 5% or whatever, and you're very content about this, and you can be relatively happy, and you can live a relatively happy life. But deep down, you will still be suffering, and only for as long as life goes for you the way that is kind of more or less according to how you want life to go for you, you will remain happy. And the moment you lose this relative status, for example, the moment you go to poverty, and a person like this would immediately slip to misery. So authentic happiness is not a function of how well you compare to other people, but is only a function of how much you love yourself, and how much your love for yourself is independent, completely independent of anybody around you. That is authentic happiness. But I mean, that's the spiritual process, basically, is learning to love yourself regardless of your relative stance to other people. Because since childhood, we're trained to look at ourselves and other people through these comparisons. So happiness is very interesting in this regard. Like, for example, I myself personally, socially, has been in the kind of a top strata in the United States. I mean, not like top 1%, of course, but like, let's say top 5, easy. But I was never happy. I have always been depressed and stuff like that. And even though I compared myself, I was absolutely content with my relative position in terms of material wealth and social status and kind of things like that. It did not bring me happiness, because I used to compare myself with other people over the whole range of other things, as most of us do. Because it's not only about that. We look at personalities, we look at everything. We want to be cool, we want to be nice, we want to be that, and also we have all the other ideas about what will make us happy. When because material wealth, even if you have it, is itself is not enough. So we start, looking for love. We start looking for family. We start looking for meaning. There are many things. So if you are under the illusion, and I'm not speaking about you specifically, but generally, if you're under the illusion that if you reach a certain level of material wealth, then you will become happy, then it might be true for a while. It might be relatively true, meaning that, like, this part of insecurity, for example, will leave you, right? But all the other insecurities and all the other discontent will stay. So if you're really looking for happiness, and I think that if you're not looking for happiness, then you're just wasting your life, because why else would you live if not to be happy? So if you're really looking for happiness, then I think it's much better, instead of focusing on material wealth, just go for the jugular, and look for and pursue happiness in a spiritual way, and pursued the happiness, the authentic happiness of self-realization, the authentic happiness of enlightenment. So that would be kind of my introduction, let's say. And if you have any follow-ups, or so we have about 11 people watching us right now. If anybody has any follow-ups or questions or comments, then I would welcome it now.
Well, I was thinking about it for the past few days, and I was thinking it's kind of a relative thing. You compare yourself to other people, and that would be why you might feel better having more money, and worse if you had less. And also, you do need enough to eat, and
Yes.
to have somewhere to keep you safe, and so on the very lower ends, a bit of money would probably help happiness in that sense.
Yes, and it's great that you mentioned it. You see, because you see the comparisons. Mute again. There's a lot of noise from your mic. Yes, it's great that you mentioned it, because the comparison to other people, when we speak about happiness or wealth, when we speak about wealth, the comparison to other people is it's always pretty much subjective, extremely subjective. Like, for example, compared to how we used to live, the humanity, several centuries ago, you're all extremely rich, insanely. Like, I would rather be a homeless person in the United States today than a king in 15th century. I'm absolutely serious. Do you think I'm exaggerating? I'm not exaggerating at all. You know why? Because I don't want to get my pulled teeth without anesthesia. You see, because the moment I will get a toothache, and I will get a lot of it, because I don't have toothpaste. I don't have the electric toothbrushes or anything. I don't have pretty much anything. Like, anything happens to me, and I'm an insane amount of physical pain. What good are my servants if my life can be made a misery when one of my teeth aches? What good are my servants if, to get to a different place, I would have to spend 8 hours in a chariot, that is almost literally physically painful, so kind of rigid and hard it is, and so uncomfortable the ride is in it. You see, the kind of and yet, so that's one thing to consider, right? That I would never go back under absolutely any circumstances, because life is much more comfortable right now for pretty much everybody. Pretty much everybody. Everybody. We pretty much have no slavery. So even in very autocratic, in very totalitarian societies, most of the time, nobody makes you physically do things. I mean, most of the time, of course, you can still go to prison, you can still go to the army, and there could still, and I've been to the army, by the way, so I know what it's like when somebody physically makes you do things, and then if you don't do it, then you're subject to violence. It's not a very easy thing, so I know what it's like. But in most societies, people never get subjected to this. This is a vast departure from how we used to live, like even 10 centuries ago, 5 centuries ago. So I would never go back. And yet, when we look back, then it's just the same as before. Some people are happy, some people are not. An average level of happiness in our society does not increase. If the average level of happiness in our society increased, then the level of depressions would increase, the level of anxiety would decrease. You see, but no, based on subjective questionnaires, kind of the average level in our society pretty stable. It depends on culture a lot, to a lot greater degree than. So it depends on, like, kind of how open and accepting the culture is, to a greater degree, it depends on perceived inequality versus equality to a much greater degree than any objective measure of physical comfort, which is quite shocking, but it's also quite natural, because as animals, we don't need much. As bodies, we don't need much. As bodies, we need basic warmth, basic shelter, and basic food, and everything else is our social needs. And all our misery is our social misery, actually, most of the time. So it is very interesting, actually, to think about it. How much do you really need, right? Not to be happy, but to survive, because to be happy is a psychological need. Which, I mean, if we explore that, we could ask, well, let's look at the source of unhappiness rather, than try to figure out how to be happy. Because this would be much more productive. Because just objectively speaking, if you're not in pain, if you have food and shelter, then you should be happy. My cat is, or my dog is, so then why not you, right? So subjectively speaking, it makes more sense to look at the sources of unhappiness than to try to find happiness in something. But we don't do that, because like almost nobody thinks that way. So it is very interesting to notice that. It's also very interesting. I think. So Buddha was a beggar, right? So Gautama was a beggar for some time, and I think I don't know if it's true, but I read the story of Gautama returning to his family, and I think that he gave his beggar's bowl or whatever, like some device that he kind of used it to his son, to the great dismay of his wife. Why did he do that? Why did he instead of asking his son to do honest work and to keep a good kind of level of material wealth, let's say that corresponds to the United States $70,000 a year right now at that times, right? Instead of that, he gave him a beggar's bowl. Why did he do that? Well, that's actually very simple, because to get food in any human society is actually not hard, in absolutely most human societies. But we very rarely had periods of famine and lack. Most of the time, our periods in a society, periods of lack of food, are self-created. We are actually, for most of our history, we live in abundance of access to food. We learned agriculture. We started farming animals. In most of societies, there are more than enough food to get everybody fed. And think about it. How else could it be? How else could it be? Because if it wasn't the case, right, then why would society? Where would society get energy to build houses, to build temples, to build culture, to get all these extracurricular activities, to develop theater, to do all of that, right? A society that is struggling to get food cannot develop this way. So for most of the human's history, we don't have problems with food, but we have emotional problems with each other. So when Buddha gave his son this thing, he knew what he was doing, because in order to survive as a beggar in a society, it's very easy to survive as a beggar in a society. But in order to really survive as a beggar in a society, you have to do what? You have to step over your pride. You see? And you have to beg authentically, to ask for help. You see? Without any, the more bitter you are when you ask for help, the less likely you're going to get it. You see? That's the lesson that he wanted to give, to humble. So it is a very interesting testament to what really makes us happy. We are fundamentally very happy, content beings that are in peace when we're fed and warm, and we create our own suffering, we create our own unhappiness by constantly emphasizing the comparative nature of society by creating morality and enforcing it with cruelty. Let's bring up Shay. We also have Shay. We have Shay. Okay, so we have Africa doesn't agree with you. Sorry. I'm not sure what you mean. I actually I think it does, because I would not ever say that things like, health, food, shelter are not important for basic human happiness and decency. What I was saying is that it is way, way, way more relative. Like imagine Africa. Imagine Africa if it didn't know of the existence of all of the rest of the world. You see, that's actually so interesting. What's going on with the world right now, because we have entered into this kind of era of the information technology and complete transparency, and in which the isolation of a country, the informational isolation of a country, becomes impossible. And since it becomes impossible, then it's also impossible to preserve your relative level of happiness by kind of not knowing that, for example, your material wealth is considered poverty by the rest of the world. You see, so it's still, I mean, it still does not affect, because interestingly enough, we can abstract. When we see things on TV, it's not as close to us when we see things at home. But it is still, it's a departure. It's a huge departure from how we used to live. So one could even say that even like the collapse of Soviet Union would be inevitable. As the information technology, as the information era kind of continues, and as society becomes more and more knowledgeable, more and more transparent about how everybody lives, not just their country, their neighbors, then people get exposed to kind of more and more things. They do more and more comparisons, and there's more and more discontent. So the same applies to China and North Korea and everything. So the society is moving towards greater and greater transparency, which is very good for economy and for society and everything. But it is not very good for your psyche, because like every direction into more transparency and more kind of truth and more acceptance of things as they are, it can be difficult for society, right? For your psyche. And pretty much, Enlightenment is taking it deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, right? But so it's interesting what's kind of how we are going to develop as how humanity is going to develop in this circumstance. Okay, Shay.
I've got nothing.
Okay.
I just thought I'd come on and say hello.
No worries. Just that's all right. Asen says, if it takes money to be happy, your search for happiness will never end. Gautama Buddha. Yes, exactly. If it takes money to be happy, your search for happiness will never end. That is exactly right. That's exactly right. Julia from Russia says, hi, Artem. Nice to see you. Hi, Julia. I haven't spoken to you in a while. So please, guys, if you have any more questions or want to discuss something or contribute or share something, please. I'm done with speaking for now. No? Okay, well, let me think. Maybe there's something else specifically I wanted to mention. Yeah, it's fascinating how deceitful our mind is, but what would make us happy. Like, for example, with regards to wealth specifically, for example, when I was when I was young, when I was like 23, 24, things like that, and was living in the poverty of Soviet not Soviet, but already newly capitalist Russia after Soviet Union's collapse. I thought that if I had a Porsche, it would be so cool. It would make me so happy. I would be like so cool. I would be like, it was like a dream to have a Porsche. I mean, those were very different times, right? Remember, right? So it was difficult there wasn't a lot of Porsches on the streets back then. But the funny thing is that when there was a period in my life where I actually could buy it, right? And I could just walk in any dealership and just drive it. Drive out of the dealership in your car. Then I absolutely lost any desire to do it. It just didn't even occur to me. It was no desire whatsoever. It's very impractical, stupid, waste of money, things like that. So whatever happened to this, and I wasn't enlightened or anything like that. It was just a kind of a normal sort of very normal kind of course of my life as it developed from being like a 24-something insecure boy to a little bit more kind of understanding grown, like 30 years something man that wouldn't like waste money on something so stupid as to buy a sports car just to feel cool. So also, by the way, so that was just an example. Also, by the way, what is worth mentioning is that different people have different relationships to material wealth, right? So, for example, for some, material wealth is the source of fun and entertainment, right? So maybe they're not happy because they're bored or whatever, but they are seeking material wealth to have a more interesting, exciting life. For some, it is a great source of status. So it is very important for them to be on top. So they're seeking material wealth as a game in which they win. And then yet again, for some, it is a source of safety. It is like their sort of the feelings that they put in material wealth is security. So they look at money as security. They are basically afraid when they have money, they feel less anxious. And me personally, like my relationship with money was mostly of the third kind, right? Although there was both. There was a lot of the second two, and there was some of the first, yes. But so in each of us, they're actually all of it, right? So it's just a matter of degree, right? But all of this is illusory, actually. So neither status makes you happy, nor access to entertainment actually makes you happy. Even freedom from not working isn't something that makes you happy if you're not happy already. Because if you're not happy already, the freedom from not working might turn to your biggest nightmare. And it is reflected in culture by the stories about the children of very rich people, right? And that is the concern of people who are very financially successful, because in our culture, in knowing the insanity of an average human mind, not having to work and having all the resources in the world, unless you have come up with some goal for yourself, is a path to insanity or enlightenment, if you're lucky. But which is kind of similar. But anyway, I mean, like everybody understands intuitively that there's a danger that nothing good would come out of it. So yes, so all kind of three different types of relationship with money ultimately disappears in enlightenment, and they're ultimately all about emotional comfort and still looking for something to entertain, to soothe insecurity, to use as a measuring stick against other people, and none of that makes anybody happy. So we have a bunch of comments. Julia says, yeah, or Mercedes and Hugo Boss suit the dream back then. Yes, exactly. Asen says, I'm having trouble achieving a non-separated state. What advice could you give me, teacher? Asen, I think it depends on what practice you are using, and like it is difficult for everybody to achieve non-separate state, because the thing is not something that you can achieve. It is only something that can happen. It is only something that you can surrender to. It is only something that you can open up yourself to. It is something that you can allow to happen to you. You see? So it is very difficult, and it's very easy at the same time. The difficulty is to let go of trying to achieve it, and learn to accept whatever happens to you at the present moment. And that is why the practice of meditation is so effective. You see, any practice that allows you to practice deeper acceptance of your current experience, especially if it's an unpleasant experience, emotionally speaking, energetically speaking, any practice of this sort will kind of slowly allow you to surrender and let go deeper and deeper into the non-separated state. So with regards to your specific question, I think that we probably should talk privately, and or more specifically, about what you practice, what you find, what you're struggling with, and then maybe I can give you some practical advice. But it is difficult, yes, and there's it's very natural. There's nothing wrong with that. Monica says, why human mind goes for security over creativity and freedom? Fear. I mean, to imagine an average human mind, to understand what an average human mind is, you have to imagine an abused puppy. You see, so you take a puppy and you start beating it with a stick when it's very small, very little. And then when you have a grown dog that is anxious, fearful, angry, barking, insecure, and you look at it and you say, why do you go for insecurity instead of happiness and running for butterflies and sniffing other dogs' butts and being so a happy dog that is joyfully running across the ocean? Well, it won't be able to respond to you. I mean, it is not a fair question. So unfortunately, you see, we are all trained to see the world to be much more dangerous, much more unfriendly place than it really is, and it kind of starts very early, and there's also some truth to that, because we make the world this place, right? But when you are growing up, it is very hard for you to separate the world from the people in it, right? So you kind of you grow up to see the world and as this, and to see yourself in this world like that, and in order to really realize the truth, the truth of existence, in order to realize reality, you kind of have to separate yourself from people, and that is also why enlightenment has been historically described as complete aloneness. It is the process of complete separation psychologically from people, because people have been your abusers. I mean, it's also not their fault. It's also not their fault. That is also true, right? That is also true. So, and we could also say from another perspective that psychologically not psychologically, but fundamentally, you have been your own abuser, because you have created the psychological illusion of both the abuser and the victim. And you can look at it from a variety of different angles, but it doesn't take away from the fact that when we come into this world as little children, then we oftentimes get subjected to unfair, cruel treatment. We see a lot of cruelty, a lot of uncalled for, completely uncalled for, So we sort of grow up into this crazy world and internalize a lot of its craziness, and we don't know how to get out of it, how to get out of here. So only when you start to transcend the mind and understand the mind and witness the mind, then you can find the real source of security, creativity, and freedom. And the less of the mind is left, the more creativity and freedom will manifest. So it is a very beautiful, extremely beautiful journey. And practice is the only thing that actually helps. Okay, Asin is asking how. I think that he's asking how. I'm not sure. Well, why don't we talk in private, and then I see if I can help you with advice. Monica continues. She says, "I feel I have nothing to achieve now. That's most wonderful. Not even bloody enlightenment. That's great. There is no enlightenment. Nothing to achieve. I'm taking everything as it comes. Beautiful. Could it be a trick of mine again? Have I given up? I don't know. It could be. Whatever. Are you happy? Are you happy? Are you content? Do you feel like there is more? Do you feel like there is more for you? Do you want to practice? Do you want to see more? Do you want to cry more? Do you want to reach the ultimate states of happiness and contentment? It is a path which you choose. It is completely up to you how deep you want to take it. So obviously, if you're asking this question, then that by definition means that you haven't achieved the ultimate depth. But and there is kind of a possibility for a deeper contentment, deeper peace. There's no question about it. But I'm not the person who will tell you that go ahead and practice, because the greatest, from my perspective, the greatest value of life is freedom. And if you want to live, if you're happy and you want to live fully right now, I will never tell you drop all of that and go to meditate until this stupid question never occurs to you. So if you're happy, then I'm happy. That's all I can say about it. Mo says, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. That's sound financial advice. Thank you. Okay. Also, Mo says, can it be said that spirituality and materialism are two baskets, and if one is scared of the odds of really being enlightened, he can find solace in wealth? No, it cannot. No. Wealth is just one of the things that people find solace in. And actually, you can never successfully find solace in anything. You can temporarily find solace in something, but wealth is just one. There's wealth, family, children, romantic love, career, professional reputation, social standing, community work, lots of pretty much any occupation can be a source of kind of your illusory happiness. So it doesn't even matter what you do. I mean, strictly speaking, you cannot even, like, a completely enlightened person is indistinguishable. It's just a regular person. It can be also socially active. It can be helping the community or not, or living like a hermit. It actually doesn't matter. He can have a family and children or not. That doesn't matter at all. What matters is, are you living your life? Are you living somebody else's life? If you're living your life, then how come you're not in peace with yourself? That's all that matters. So if you're miserable, if you're not in peace with yourself, then you're probably living someone else's life without knowing it, because you have accumulated a bunch of ideas of how to live. So no, I mean, in the dream state, like even when you're spiritual, I mean, then people find solace in spirituality, people find solace in religion. I forgot to mention that, like, big dimension, right? So people find solace also in consciousness, people find solace in manifestation, like even as you can find solace in your enlightenment, you see, and you will never be enlightened. If you find solace in your enlightenment, then you will never be enlightened. So you can, like, all in all stages of the path, everywhere you can find some solace somewhere, you see. And it's all temporary, actually. It's all temporary. So everything can be a solace, and nothing is a solace, right? So if you're struggling, then you can look at anything as an escape, as something that will relieve you from suffering. And if you're not suffering, then you can look at anything as just fun activity that you like to do, even things that would bring a lot of people suffering. Like, for example, sort of, in my teaching, for example, I have to, not even have to, but I do deal with a lot of emotional anguish and tears and very difficult expressions from other people, which would be very uncomfortable for a lot of people to deal with, right? And it's uncomfortable for therapists to deal with, and it's uncomfortable for psychiatrists to deal with oftentimes, right? And it's not a secret that the percentage, the likelihood of suicides is slightly higher among professional mental health workers, right? Because it's taxing, right? But it's fun for me, so I do it. So anything that is anything that it kind of, it's a journey to making your lives yours, and then if you are doing what you love to do, if you are doing what you authentically love to do, then you won't suffer. So yeah, but it can be a difficult journey. So no, you cannot say it would be a very narrow way of looking at it. Asen says, is there a high version of myself who permits my suffering so that I can learn? You could say so, yes. I mean, you could, if you wish. I mean, if you wish, you could say so, yes. If you wish, you could say that, yes, that you allow yourself your suffering, that you permit your suffering, that you permit your suffering so that you can learn from it. Yes, it's actually a pretty wise way to look into it, right? But sooner or later, you will merge with this higher self, because that's what it wants. That's what it wants. So yes. Ivo says, hi, Ivo. I haven't heard from you for a while. Ivo says, hi, Artem. What part do beliefs play in this path? All of it. Like the whole path is to knock down your beliefs. Do they just dissolve, or do we have to work on them? No. You don't have to work on them. No. They, first of all beliefs are about yourself, right? So don't try to please. Just like, I mean, I guess you can do it. Like if you. So I guess you can do it. It's just not my method, but I guess you can do it. You can look at an apple and ask yourself, how do I know that it's an apple? What makes me believe that it's an apple? And I guess you can do it. That's actually Jed McKenna's method, pretty much, right? So that's kind of spiritual autolysis, because kind of the moment you said I, the moment that you said I know that there's an I and there's an apple, you sort of already kind of showed your assumptions. Sure. I mean, that's actually a valid moment to reach self-realization. It's gonna drive you crazy. That's why it works, because it's gonna drive you crazy. But you see, I don't actually consider it to be a very efficient moment at all, because what's gonna drive you crazy even more and more efficiently, and it's gonna be more painful, is when you challenge your beliefs about yourself. You see, like, why do you think of yourself in this way? Why do you think that you should be this way, not this way? Why do you think you're like that? Why do you believe other people what they tell you about you? Why do you believe the words about yourself that you are speaking to yourself in your mind all day long? You see, so remember that this is about you in a much personal way than you ever hoped, than you ever imagined. Much more personal, much more intimate. You see, so you don't have to work on your beliefs. You all you have to do is see and accept the experience, and the experience is formed by beliefs, whether it is experience that you have, whether it's an intense experience that you have in meditation that lasts several hours and like out of body, like spiritual experience, whatever, where you saw gods or spoke to aliens, or it is an experience of deep humiliation or resentment towards somebody, or experience of hatred towards somebody you love. Both of those experiences are formed by beliefs. So the more you accept all of the experience, the more open you are to all experience, the more you will automatically shed beliefs, because the more open you are to any experience, the more you will see that all experience comes and goes, and none of the experience is permanent. And ultimately, you will see that all of this experience is empty. So the emptying of beliefs and the emptying of the emotional experience, the emptying of suffering, the cessation of suffering, the cessation of beliefs actually come together. So usually when the moment of self-realization is when your identity switches to consciousness, usually people say, okay, so I lost all of my beliefs. I don't believe anything at all. I'm just energy, just experience. I'm conscious. And that was my experience too. But at this stage, you still have a mountain of beliefs. That's why there is so much intensity and energy and stuff like that. And that's why, you feel other people's energies and a bunch of stuff. That's why things hurt and stuff, because every pain, every emotional pain, every suffering is actually a product of belief. And anger is most of the time a product of belief. So if somebody can insult you, it's a product of belief. And of course, nobody can insult consciousness, sure, but if the person that you're observing gets insulted, well, trust me, you still have a lot of beliefs. So please, no, don't work on beliefs. Just work on being more open to everything that life brings you, and practice. And beliefs will fall, and you will be on the way to liberation. Monica says, "I'm blissful." Yes, I'm very happy. I'm very happy that you're blissful. It is wonderful. Monica says, "I have not achieved the ultimate, and I'm aware of the same, but I don't feel like chasing it." Exactly. So never chase it. Don't chase it. It happens. It is a happening. You see, even practice, even meditation is a practice of no practice. It's a practice of non-practice. You see, that's all it is. You can't, strictly speaking, practice acceptance. You can just put yourself in a situation when it's more likely to happen. And of course, if you spend several hours with your eyes closed, it's going to be more likely to happen, of course, than if you distract yourself with some goal. So that's why the practice is productive, not that's because you are exerting some sort of effort. Monica says, continues, "So far, all experiences and insights have come up on their own." Exactly. All authentic insights, they come on their own. And so I feel the truth will also make its way eventually. Yes, absolutely. And it's not like it's not like there's just some truth that will make its way eventually. Truth is just what's left. So every insight is, if you notice that every insight is of every authentic insight is of the nature of, oh, wow, it's always been like this. It's always been like this. And that means that you have always known it, but there was some illusion, there was something that prevented you from realizing it, from remembering it, right? And that's exactly what left you. That's exactly what you dropped, right? So all insights come in actually after, with or after dropping some of the falsehoods. So, and truth is just what's left. So it's not that truth will make its way eventually. It already made its way. I mean, it's just more falsehoods are going to fall, and your well-being will increase even further. So there's nothing to chase. Monica says, my ego was strongly involved in my spiritual chase. Yes, it always is. It always is. I feel unjust in disguise now, as against being so obviously obvious other way. I'm not sure I understood that. My ego was strongly involved in my spiritual chase. I feel, and just in disguise now, as against being so obvious other way. Well, you see, it's not that it's in disguise. I mean, if you feel blissful, if you disidentified with the ego, if you identify with the consciousness, I mean, a big chunk of your ego, the kind of the core of it, is probably gone. I mean, how much is hard to say, but it just doesn't mean that all of it is gone. You see, so every part of it that isn't gone is in disguise. so of course, yes. So it's in disguise, and it's deceitful stuff. But you will keep illuminating it. You will keep illuminating it, shedding light on it with consciousness, with awareness, looking internally, and it will keep slowly dissolving more and more, thus liberating you more and more. So it's all good. Madhu says, does the mind tend to blur how much material wealth we need to survive? Oh, absolutely. The mind is super deceitful with regards to how much material wealth you need to survive. I mean, why do you think people, why do you think people jumped to their deaths after, from the skyscrapers after 2008 financial crisis? It's insane. It's a completely insane behavior, right? Well, obviously they probably didn't think they won't survive, right? But the mind tricked them into thinking that they wouldn't be able to live with, let's say, shame or life that will be devoid of the material pleasures that they are used to, will be so horrible that it's better to die than to, it is such a deceitful thing, incredibly, which is also why I say that the biggest mistake you can possibly make in spirituality is suicide. That's by far the biggest mistake, by far. I mean physical suicide, like do something with your body. For example, I feel if I don't find some white-collar job, I will not be able to survive. Oh, yes, that's one of it. Of course you will be able to survive, of course. But this cannot be total truth. Of course it's not, of course. Yes. Very, very good insight. Observation, self-observation. Asen says, what happens when we die? Is the opposite of life non-suffering? Well, the opposite of life is death, and what happens when we die is a question that I will answer to you only if you tell me what was happening before you were born. I mean, you must remember, right? It's in the past. So the same thing that was happening before you were born will happen when you die. So since, I mean, you should know. Okay. Monica says, beautiful explanation of this world. Thank you very much. What is the ultimate consciousness, the ground of being and all existence? Well, the ultimate is what Osho dubbed the seventh body, the nirvanic body. So the ground of being and all existence would be the sixth body, the Brahmanic body. So first, sort of, kind of, your identity moves to consciousness, existence, whatever. So you transcend ego and you become life, existence. Then you realize that life in itself is empty. Not just ego is empty, but life is empty. So and you realize non-existence. And the ultimate is when they kind of merge. So the ultimate is when, as Osho put it, life and death occur together. It's when there is no difference between light and darkness, ego and egolessness, enlightenment and ignorance. It is when, it's all one, it's all the same. Enlightened, not enlightened, doesn't matter. I'm alive right now, I'm going to die. That's all. I'm just the same as everybody else. That's the ultimate. So kind of before that, and people usually spend years and years in the state of kind of this Sahaja Samadhi consciousness, which is which is what I call a death trance state. And I spend a lot of time in this state too. But I kind of, it can be so blissful that you can spend, that you can never transcend it. So it's very rare for a human being to actually attain the ultimate. It is very rare. Gautama and Osho, I personally think, were one of those people. But also remember that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because it's not like it's gonna. It's not like you can miss it. It's not like it's gonna get away from you. It's only a matter of the closer you are to it, especially after self-realization, the better your well-being is, right? But it doesn't mean that you absolutely have to because to realize the ultimate, sometimes it takes extreme, So, for example, Gautama's realization, from what I know, has deepened throughout his life significantly, and Osho spent 3 years in silence after the realization, and then 3 years in silence closer to the end of his life, because he felt something was incomplete. And I feel that something is a little bit incomplete in me also. And I used psychedelics and to speed it up, and it was very, very difficult for me to get to the point where, let's say, I could smoke weed and not feel any fear, like nothing at all, pretty much. Yeah. So it is kind of, the ultimate is not for the faint of heart, but whether you want to go there or not is sort of up to you. It doesn't. You won't miss it. It's not like you will miss life if you don't attain the ultimate. It's not like my reality is not your reality. It is. Your reality is my reality. It's just that on top of this reality, there is more of the unreality. There's more of the unreality in the mind, in most people. So it's never about achieving truth. It's never about attaining reality. You cannot attain truth. You cannot attain reality. It's not possible. You can only drop falsehoods. You can drop unreality. You can get out of unreality. You can drop falsehoods. See, that's all. And so the deeper you go into this path, the kind of the better it gets. But there's absolutely no reason to kind of aim for the ultimate. The ultimate is the ultimate relaxation. That's what it is, and it can only happen if it's not forced. You cannot force yourself to relax. It's not possible, right? It's not possible. Relaxation is something that happens to you. So don't worry too much about the ultimate. Asen says, why is suicide a mistake? What if your suffering becomes simply unbearable? Well, who told you that suicide will end it? Well, think about that. Like, how do you know, right? Is it like you know that you will not, that you, how do you know what's going to happen when you commit suicide? Like, who told you? Did somebody come back and tell you? Did somebody come back and says, "Oh well, you know what? I suffered so much, and then I shut myself, and there was no more suffering." Did that happen? You know, so 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 it can be unbearable. I mean, it's a subjective evaluation. Actually, no suffering is unbearable. You know, if your suffering was unbearable, you'd be dead already. You know, so yeah, I'm speaking to you, which means your suffering is bearable. You know, so there's no suffering which is unbearable for the body. There's no emotional suffering which can be unbearable for the body, actually, right? So there could be some physical pain or physical duress, right? Loss of blood, pain, something like that would make it unbearable for the body. But there's no amount of suffering, which means how you feel, which is unbearable for the body. And that's the mistake with the suicide, is thinking that, first of all, it is unbearable. Bullshit. You know, what's unbearable? What does it mean unbearable? You say it's unbearable, but it's obviously not. So that's one mistake. And another is that suicide will make it go away. But in reality, you know, it could be the absolute opposite. It could be that by committing the suicide, you just launch into this forced, like, it's very possible. You know, if you really consider committing suicide seriously, like if you're at the state where, if you're at the stage where basically nothing I can tell you will that you're just so dead set on committing the suicide, nothing I can tell you will prevent it, then don't jump off the bridge. Just take a large dose of acid. We'll be close. You know. So if you're afraid of taking a large dose of acid and you're not afraid to jumping off the bridge, then this is absolutely irrational, and this is a sign of insanity right there. If you should be afraid much more of the real suicide than of like taking a large dose of acid. You know, because at least the trip, the latter trip, is going to end. So like the mind is so incredibly deceitful into how it presents a suicide as a rational option, which is never absolutely never rational, because that's the only thing that is absolutely irreversible. You know, and who knows what's going to happen? I mean, maybe that's going to be exactly like taking, like maybe you're just going to launch into like all of this horrible. You're gonna and actually, if you ask me, I would probably say it's pretty likely that's what's going to happen. And then also you look at, you know, people's near-death experiences and stuff, and people go through purgatory and they reevaluate and your life, and then you will see all the things about your life and all of that, and the same process of spiritual enlightenment, basically. And you will go through all of that, and finally you will reach the complete unity and nirvana. You're like, oh my god, that's it, and then you're just gonna die. Wonderful. Yes, I mean, possibly, right? But you'll go through all this horror, whether you want it or not. What if that's the case? What if that's the case? I mean, wouldn't it be better to go through all of this horror in life while your body is still breathing, and then live happily for another 50 years? Wouldn't that be better? You see? So be careful. Be careful with the stupidity of the mind. You know, I mean, the mind cannot think rationally. Mishkin says, is there a perceptual difference after your enlightenment? What helps you? Yes, there's a huge perceptual difference, and tremendous. I mean, this could be a topic for another meeting. I don't think that I can address it right now. So, you know, why don't you come back, my friend, and we can discuss that, because yeah, there's so much I can tell about it, and we've been live for already an hour and 10 minutes. By the way, about 20 people are watching, and thank you very much for joining, guys. Without you, this broadcast would not be possible. So once again, I wanted to use this opportunity to thank you for watching my broadcasts, and please, you know, like, share, subscribe. It helps me. It helps other people who want to find me. You know, like, some people don't like me, it's fine. But for some people, they have been searching for something like this, and of course, you know, the more exposure my work has, the more people that could benefit from it will be able to find me. So I am always grateful for your participation. Lucas says, what it means to accept life versus accept death. Okay, Luca, you have a bunch of questions. I think, why don't we try to address it later? I'm not even sure that I should. Yeah. What's the difference between accepting life and accepting death? There is no difference. In the end, there seems to be one and the same, right? So accepting death is accepting life. Accepting life is accepting death, right? So you cannot live fully if you're still in denial that you're going to die one day. And then once you have accepted that you're going to die one day, you cannot help but live fully. Because then it would be like immediately, like you would slip back into deceit. Because if you know, then you will not waste. So okay. I see what you're saying. Well, I read from core posts that we have to first accept love and then we have to first accept death. So much different. Well, the difference between the two is that kind of first it's only experiential. So it's kind of first exists as an ego, right? And then your identity moves to love, life, being, all of life, all of existence, and stuff. And there's a deep emotional process of accepting of accepting the beauty of life, of existence, and its major sort of characteristic is love, right? But sooner or later, even love and even loveful life is seen to be empty. And after you kind of have enjoyed the bliss and love of existence, you start to realize the emptiness and coldness of non-existence. And in the end, the bliss and love of existence and the emptiness and coldness of non-existence merge together, and that's enlightenment. So usually, people first people, when they disidentify with ego, they sort of they fall into love, like lots of love, right? The emptiness come later. So and by the way, there's this body of work, I think it's called non-symbolic experiences or something like this. I don't remember.
Persistent non-symbolic experiences.
Mm-hmm. Can you repeat it?
Persistent non-symbolic experiences.
Yes, persistent non-symbolic experiences.
Finders.
And I read it like about a year after self-realization, and it is extremely accurate until it comes to later locations, because there's just not too many people there. But it's extremely accurate. So it described location 3, which is kind of what I would call existence, it's love, and then location 4, which I would call non-existence, where you feel like there's no doer, things just happen. So and then but none of those actually is enlightenment. So enlightenment comes much later, and they don't describe it at all. They say, well, there are some more locations, like up to 21, and people tend to go from 3rd to 4th and switch between. No. What's going on is that so location 3 is just the realization of the beauty of life itself, because you are life itself, and location 4 is the realization of the emptiness of death, and these two realizations, they're actually two sides of the same story, so they need to merge. So that as they go, they tend to sort of fluctuate between love and emptiness, between beauty and meaninglessness, until they merge completely and settle. And they also say that in further locations, of which they almost have nothing to say because there's so few people, they say that the sense of identity, the sense of I, reemerges, and they're right. That's why I say that in the end, the identity goes back to the body. So first you lose yourself. You say, well, I have no identity, no body, nothing. I'm just love. There's no I. Then even that is thrown away, and you realize a much deeper emptiness. And you say, there's no doer at all. Things just happen, But even that is actually an illusion. So in the end, the sort of your sense of self reemerges. It is temporary, kind of. So the love of location 3 and the emptiness and surrender, non-doership of location 4 need to merge together in enlightenment. And but this is a very good body of research, and it also confirms that, like, you usually you go first through 3, then you go to 4, and then you kind of fluctuate between them, and they start to merge together. That was my experience, and I think it confirms kind of their research. So that's what I meant. I did not mean something else, just that experientially, but from the perspective of the ultimate reality, accepting life is accepting death, and accepting death is accepting life. They're one and the same. They're one and the same. And actually, there's not even, from the perspective of the absolute reality, there is no death. And what people are afraid of, what people call death, is enlightenment. So, yeah. Okay, another comment. Suicide is pretty common nowadays, unfortunately. Yes, nobody knows the experience of people committing. Of course, right? And that's my point exactly. I can speculate, and I can, like, my speculation would be quite informed, I think. But even I don't know. Even I don't know. So Madhu says, thank you. You're most welcome. Mishkin says, Osho says drugs like LSD helps more than years of psychoanalysis. Yes, he's correct. Absolutely. Psychoanalysis is a waste of time. Why is that the case? Shouldn't nature have given us natural potent energy without needing extra? Yes, absolutely. It's called meditation. You don't have to use LSD. I would say the same thing about meditation. Meditation helps more than years of psychoanalysis. You can read his statement like this. It would be the same statement. Asen says, what do you say to people who say suffering is not a joke? I will say, hi. Suffering is not a joke. I am one of those people. I mean, you can only realize the joke of suffering when you no longer suffer. When you suffer, it's not a joke to you. So when somebody is deeply suffering, I'm not going to make fun of them. So it's actually the opposite. I mean, usually I make fun of people who claim that they not suffer, and they come to me with arrogance, and then I poke them, and I know they don't like it, and they still claim they don't suffer. That's what and when somebody is really suffering, and they're honest about it and authentic, I would not say it's a joke. I mean, it would make them hurt even more, right? But it kind of, the Jed McKenna said very, 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 very correct thing. He said, like, any spiritual master, any enlightened master who is committed to the progress of their student would be an unthinkable monster. So if I'm committed to your progress, I would be a monster. I would hurt you at every opportunity. The problem is that you're probably going to run away, and that even isn't like that's not even a wise commitment, you see. But even if there was a bond which would allow you to come back again and again and again, I would still not do it, because to me, the value of your freedom is higher than the value of your enlightenment, you see. So because my position on it, right? So I know that, like, my position on it is that without pain, there is no, without going through the suffering, there is no peace, right? So the peace lies beyond the unpeace, right? So my position is that there will be pain, and you know that, right? So if you want that, you can say, well, be brutally honest with me, But if you don't say that, I won't be. It's like, so it's I don't have a goal of making your progress faster. I'm just being truthful to you, and I'm trying to be helpful to you. And sometimes, when people suffer, then they don't need somebody to make them suffer even more. They need somebody to help them see it from a slightly different perspective. You don't bring balance to it, because there's no way to eliminate the suffering, but there's only a way to help you see the suffering from a different perspective, and use it as a tool of self-growth instead of just misery. You see, that's what I'm trying to do, right? I'm not trying to just kind of bring you pain for no pain. So I would never, for no reason. So I would never say suffering is a joke. It wasn't a joke for me. It's not a joke for a lot of people. There's so much suffering in the world. The whole world is crying. What is speaking about suffering is a joke? No, it's not a joke. Okay. Thank you for this question. Suffering is not a joke, Asen. Correct. Don't subestimate your suffering. I'm one of that people. Okay. I'm not in a state of extreme suffering right now. I'm quite comfortable. Okay, so there's some conversation here. Very nice. Wahaj says, am I nothing? Yes, you are. I was nothing before birth. Correct. Nothing now. Yes, and I'll be nothing after death. Exactly. If there is no free will, then the five senses, thoughts, and feelings can create an experience. I'm only a sensor. Infinite suffering is not possible. Correct. Enlightened people are those people who decide to do something about the suffering. Holy people are those people who suffer and do not try to change it. They're people of God. I mean, first one, I agree. The second one, actually, I mean, traditionally, I think holy people and saints are at least somewhat enlightened. So kind of they're at least somewhat disidentified with the suffering. I think you're confusing kind of historically what holy people and saints and prophets with kind of martyrs and people who dedicate themselves to religion or to the teacher or to so because devotion can be a tool of surrender, but it could also be a tool of self-denial. So it can be a tool to transcend your suffering, or it can be a tool to rationalize, to excuse your suffering. So to justify, not to excuse, but justify your suffering. So I think like those holy people, that use it to justify the suffering aren't really holy. Is there any possibility to have a private session with you? Yes, of course. Yes, I do that. I do that. I do that free of charge for those people who do not have any means to pay, and or if you do have any means to pay, that I would appreciate you paying me, because I have been doing this for quite a while and I'm not earning much money with that. But I mean, I don't need it yet, so I got a bunch of savings. I'm living comfortably, but still, I mean, I'm sort of trying to slowly kind of. It's been a couple of years or 3 years, and I'm trying to kind of slowly make sure that it will generate some income. But even if you don't have any money, I would gladly speak with you. So just write to me in private. I mean, sooner or later, I'm planning to update the website. I haven't updated in a while, and I'm planning to add their section, like to maybe put like a couple of days a week, or for some calendar events, so that people could schedule automatically phone conversations with me, or like Skype conversations with me, or something like this. Yeah, I'm planning to do that. So, all right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I have a couple of private messages. Well, okay, they're not really. Oh, where do I contact you for that? Okay. So, hold on. Yes, here. So on this website, there's a Facebook page. There's my email, and there's also a link to the Slack community, from which we moved away like a half a year ago, and it's still there on this website because I'm so freaking lazy. And but we have a Discord community nowadays, and some of the people here, like Ben and Shay, this two people. Shit, it's It's more complicated than I thought. Okay, so these two people, they can. Guys, could you please, Shay? Maybe you could do this. Could you create like a Discord invite and post it to Thank you. Yes, so you can join Discord. You can write to me on email, and yeah, we can set something up. I mean, sooner or later, I will update the website, and with links to Discord, with some schedules, and with some new content that I have. Yes, and so that's it. And it's been about an hour and a half. Guys, thank you again very much. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being an audience for this broadcast. Yeah, it wouldn't be possible without you. So please like, subscribe, share, and also please suggest topics for new broadcasts. I kind of like this format where we choose a topic and we just discuss it. We went a little off topic today, but in general, I think it could work very well. So please suggest some topics for next discussions. And I think I'm gonna do the next one next Saturday, 1 week from now. Unfortunately, we're still in lockdown for live satsangs, and as soon as we're not, I will invite you for a retreat near my house, and then we will all spend time together, and we can do meditation, and it's going to be a very different experience than this. So, well, I think that's it. Yes. Okay, Asen says, should mean before you can still have doubts. How can you claim to be fully enlightened? Like, can you? I don't have any doubts. What do you mean by doubts? What do you mean by doubts? It's just that, you see, there's a self-realization which universally everybody takes to be enlightenment, and I did too. And there's a road to complete enlightenment, which is very long, and almost nobody finishes it. And absolutely, the absolute majority of people that say that they're enlightened, whether they use the word fully or not, are actually not by this standard, by the standard of, like, by the, as Gautama said in Pali Canon, that in all the previous stages, these qualities are surpassable, but at this stage, these qualities are not surpassable. So he identified like 19 or whatever, like stages, I don't remember exactly. And those are all stages after what most people nowadays consider enlightenment. And they would all say that they're enlightened, And most of the people are not anywhere near what Gautama would describe as, at this stage, the qualities are not surpassable. You see. So from this perspective, 99.999% of people that say that they're enlightened or speak about enlightened aren't enlightened, And I don't have any doubts, but I still see dreams sometimes. I mean, not all the time, and usually I don't see any imagery. It's been a long time since I saw imagery, but I still hear thought, and I'm usually conscious when that happens, but it's still. And do I think there's more to that? Do I think that there will be a period when even that will stop? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. So, does it mean I'm not fully enlightened? Well, sure. If you want to phrase it this way, be my guest. I don't care. So I don't take it offensively. I mean, the most important thing is that if I'm being helpful to you, that's all that matters to me. So that's fine. Thank you, Artem. You're welcome. Shay says, use it soon because they expire. Well, so that they don't expire, you say configure link, and you say the expiration, the kind of, there's a how many days it lasts. So you just put an infinity, and then they don't expire. Okay. Have you ever used LSD after knowledge? Yes. And basically, after enlightenment, every time you will use LSD, it will hurt like hell. So after enlightenment, all psychedelics have work. So basically, what I consider full enlightenment, I can basically, that would also address Mason's question. So what I consider full enlightenment is when you can take like a standard dose of LSD, and you would have no experience. I'm not speaking about consciousness will have no experience. Oh yeah, the person will have experience, but consciousness is eternal, unborn, and LSD does not affect me because I'm infinite awareness. Yeah, I mean, many people like say this bullshit to me. No, I mean, you will have no experience at all. If that's the case, fine. If that's not the case, if you take LSD and then consciousness and awareness have no experience, but you start running around crying and things like that, then there's still some work to do. So, okay. Yes, that's basically yes. Okay, and I'm not even sure that I'm fully enlightened by that standard. I know that if I take a standard dose of LSD, I will have no to very moderate experience. I will either have no experience at all, or I will feel something, but it wouldn't be much. So. But I would be like, generally speaking, I would be absolutely functional. You would not be able to tell, basically. You would absolutely not be able to tell. I would just be just the same regular person. Yes. So like, from my experience, everybody who gets to that place will be extremely happy and content. But then, I mean, even now, I still have sometimes I still have some difficult moments. I mean usually at night. I rarely have difficult moments during the day, but sometimes I rarely have some difficult moments at nights. So, but psychopaths also feel nothing from LSD, by the way. Yes, exactly. Yes. Like if by the psychiatric kind of definition, I'm a psychopath. Yes, I don't experience emotion. You will not be able to make me hurt. You will not be able, like when you speak to me, you will not be able to make me angry. You will not be able to insult me. That's also you. I will not form a personal connection with you. So that's also how psychopaths are. And by the way, there's a distinction. With psychopaths, there's a very important distinction. So first of all, I don't know I don't know if it's true. Like the psychopaths don't feel not from LSD. That. So when I say exactly, I'm being completely honest. I'm just saying this confirms my suspicion, but I don't really know if it's true. What I know is that there are two types of psychopaths, and one that is traditionally called, psychopaths. And so Asen continue. How can it use this measure unless you say psychopath satellite? Yes, so that's exactly what I'm getting at. So are psychopaths enlightened? So there are psychopaths which are, let's say, antisocial psychopaths that kind of they go for what they want. They experience no remorse. They can be very violent and stuff like that. With them. With them, it's not as clear, because I think that there were some experiments on them, and long time ago when LSD was still legal, and I think that in some of them it increased their level of aggression. So basically, it liberated their ego for a time being, which is the same like in most people, especially in happy people. Actually, LSD oftentimes increases their level of aggression. So LSD on the come up of the trip. So LSD sort of uncovers all of your egoic ugliness on the come up of the trip. So yes, I mean, and then there are what nowadays are called high functioning psychopaths, and before recently they were never discussed. Actually, they weren't even discovered. But recently there have been a lot of conversations about those. So those fit the traditional definition of a psychopath. So they don't form human connections. They don't experience emotion, things like that. But they're happy, content. They're not aggressive. They're not violent. They live at the moment. They don't fear death. and they don't really understand the plight of most people, and therefore they cannot relate to them. So if those people, if those people take LSD, if my suspicion is correct, and I don't know if it is, but if my suspicion is correct, then if those people take LSD, then nothing will happen to them. Well, maybe like, I don't know, maybe body will react a little bit, but there would nothing mentally will happen to them, right? And then by my definition, they would be fully enlightened, yes, but they didn't have experience of having been lost in samsara and then having pulled yourself by the hair out of it. So they cannot teach. You see, because they don't understand like what's going on with the students, what would be helpful. They cannot relate to the experience. They basically, they have never, because you see, everybody's enlightened at birth. We just get unenlightened. So they never got it somehow, right? The antisocial psychopaths, if my suspicion is true, is the opposite, is that they have so much suffering, they have so much anger, so much aggression, and they suppress it so much that they're completely out of touch with it. And they basically created this psychopathic persona, but underneath there's like a wall of pain. So then if this person will take LSD, then there will be aggression, pain, all sorts of stuff, you see. Again, it's a theory, it's just my suspicion. I don't know if it's true. We need some more research, stuff like that. But yes, I mean, yes. There are people who can't metabolize LSD. Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about people who can't metabolize LSD. No, not at all. Because inability to metabolize LSD, if we're speaking about inability of the stomach, like of your system to metabolize LSD, has nothing to do with lack of emotion, psychopathy, how you view life, fear of death. So it's very easy to separate. We don't have to mix up the two. Asen says maybe psychopath got close to enlightenment in past life. Well, reincarnation exists for as long as ignorance exists, so we cannot make this kind of statements at all. And again, your next comment is about reincarnation. So for as long as if we're speaking about authentic full enlightenment, then that's it. We don't speak about reincarnation. So it's either or. Okay, so okay, that's it. That's it. I think that's it. I'm sorry, Asen. I wanted to make it a little, I don't know if I pronounced your name right, but I wanted to make it a little quicker because I wanted to finish. It's been about an hour and 40 minutes. But again, I mean, we can discuss psychopathy and stuff like that. And if you guys have some interesting links, evidence, literature that would make a basis for this discussion, I will be happy to do it for you. So, guys, thank you. I will say goodbye now for real this time. Thank you very much for joining me, and best of luck to you on your spiritual path. We will see each other next Saturday at 11 a.m. Right? So Ben, Shay, let me unmute you. Shay, can you say so? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Wonderful. Bye, Shay.
Bye.
Bye, man. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye, guys. Love you very much. Love you all. Best of luck to you. Bye. Bye. I'll go take a walk now.